Trump just said something that shocked the political world. He talked about Canada becoming the 51st state, Greenland as the 52nd, and Venezuela as the 53rd. Not as a joke, not as satire, but as a vision of American expansion. And suddenly, the internet exploded with one question. Is Trump trying to redraw the map of the world? Because if these words are taken seriously, they don't just sound provocative. They sound like the beginning of a geopolitical earthquake. And history tells us something dangerous. Big powers don't joke about borders. At first glance, it sounds absurd. Modern borders are fixed. Countries don't just absorb each other anymore. That's the rule of the post-World War order. But Trump has always positioned himself as a politician who questions the rules. His argument is simple. America should expand its economic and strategic dominance. And from his perspective, Canada, Greenland, and Venezuela are not random choices. They represent three things: energy, geography, and influence. Canada is one of the largest resource-rich economies in the world. Greenland is strategically critical in the Arctic. Venezuela sits on massive oil reserves. This isn't fantasy talk. This is a map of power. If the United States openly talks about territorial expansion, Europe immediately feels pressure. Why? Because Europe's security architecture depends on predictability. NATO is built on the assumption that borders are stable. If America starts discussing expansion, even rhetorically, European leaders begin asking, what happens if the rules change? A stronger, territorially expanded United States shifts global balance. It weakens European leverage, and it forces the EU to reconsider its military independence. Some analysts already warn Europe could enter a new era of strategic anxiety, not because war is coming, but because uncertainty is, and markets hate uncertainty. From Moscow's perspective, any sign of American territorial ambition looks like a return to Cold War-style power politics. Russia interprets expansionist language as strategic messaging. It signals willingness to dominate spheres of influence. And Russia knows that language shapes reality. China sees something different. Beijing sees competition. If the United States openly talks about absorbing influence zones, China accelerates its own expansion through economics. Latin America becomes a battlefield of investments. Africa becomes contested ground. Asia tightens its alliances. This is how silent global wars begin, not with missiles, but with positioning. Even talk of expansion sends signals into financial markets. Investors don't react to speeches, they react to risk. If America expands its energy footprint, oil markets destabilize. If alliances shift, defense spending explodes. If geopolitical tension rises, capital runs toward safety, gold, dollar reserves, commodities. This isn't speculation, this is pattern. Every major geopolitical shakeup reshapes money flows, and money flows shape power. There's another layer here. Trump's statements aren't just policy signals. They're psychological signals. They test reactions. When a leader pushes rhetorical boundaries, he's measuring the world's tolerance. If nobody pushes back hard enough, the conversation moves, and what sounded impossible becomes thinkable. Geopolitics often begins in language before it appears on maps. We are entering a period where global structures are fragile. Ukraine, Middle East tensions, China-US rivalry, energy wars. Now add expansion rhetoric into the mix. It doesn't guarantee conflict, but it guarantees instability. And instability is the breeding ground for transformation. History doesn't collapse overnight. It shifts slowly, until suddenly it doesn't. Trump's words may never translate into action, but they reveal something deeper. The post-Cold War order is no longer sacred. Borders are being questioned, alliances are being tested, and power is being renegotiated. This isn't about Canada or Greenland alone. It's about whether the 21st century is entering a new age of expansion politics. And if that happens, the map won't just change. The rules will. The world isn't ending, but it is moving. And when power moves, everything follows. Stay informed, because the next decision might reshape more than headlines.